This panel, hi, welcome to this panel, our third panel. Okay, hi. Welcome to this third panel, which will be dealing on festivals and markets, how to access to them, which are their importance nowadays when we are also talking about digital platforms. And the panel will be moderated by Elena Manrique, which is a producer and member of the programming committee. And she will speak to our guests, who are Gaia Furrer from Giornate degli Autori, Venice Film Festival, Stephanie Gors from Frauen Film Festival in Dortmund and Köln in Germany, and last but not least, Barbara Orlich from the Krakow Film Foundation and the Krakow Film Festival. So hope it will be interesting for you and enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you everybody for being here. Thank you to Acción Cultural Española, to la Fundación Telefónica, que nos ayudan siempre y mucho. That we are going to say hello to our streaming friends. So this is going to be like a very relaxed conversation. It's above all a conversation between these three wonderful women, festival programmers. So, and I want to also acknowledge this wonderful lady that she translates all the time for deaf-mute people, and I don't know how she manages. So respect is burning for you. Yes, okay. So the topic of this conversation is the role of festivals and film markets in the era of platforms. I know it seems like maybe obvious, maybe banal, but it's not that. Because you have to realize that in the last years, due to the pandemic, due to, we all know that, a lot of online festivals have appeared, and we are all wondering, are online festivals going to be more relevant than on-site festivals, So for us that we live, and we breathe the life of festivals is very obvious, but maybe not for everybody. So let me give a little bit of history. In 1932, the first film festival was created in Venice. So we have Gaia from Venice.
Not from me.
Well, you were not even born, but and ever since then, festivals has been like growing in a lot of places. What is the things that we all think is important in festivals? First of all, is like budding filmmakers. You put generations of filmmakers together, generations of new filmmakers with old filmmakers. It's a place where everybody encounters, everybody shares ideas, and we still think that's important. The other thing that has been important in festival is the movie buzz. When you have a film in a festival, and then of course it's critics, it's journalists, you get all this buzz, which sometimes artificially or not, but from a very modest film, you can create an event. And we all know how difficult it is nowadays to make a film that is not a blockbuster, to make it happen in the screening rooms of different countries. So having said this, and having in mind that now there are a lot of online festivals, first of all, I would like all of our guests to introduce themselves, to tell what they do, and what do they think about the difference between an online festival and an on-site festival, if it's still necessary to do that, if we are too old, like in the virtual world, nowadays, like having an on-site festival means something different than having an online festival. So we start by Barbara. So Barbara, please tell our audience here and online what is Krakow Film Festival about and all this thought that we are sharing.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lena. Thank you for inviting me here. I have a big pleasure to be at the festival for women's cinema for the first time. I came from Krakow in Poland, and I represent the Krakow Film Festival, which is a festival for documentary and short films. And it's quite old, even not so old like Venice, of course, but we have the 62nd edition next year. And we present documentary films from all over the world in the competitive and non-competitive section. We have also a program for short films, different genres, short fiction, animated, and documentary films. And our festival is an Oscar qualifying event, and we also qualify films to the European Film Award. So there is a lot of benefits for filmmakers, and the festival is held in Krakow. Until 2020, it was only the physical event in the physical space in cinemas, and of course last year changed everything, and we decided to go online. It was a very tough time for us. In a very short time, we have to decide about this very big revolution, I would say. We created our own streaming platform last year, and last year edition, which was the 60th edition, the Jubilee edition, which we of course wanted to celebrate, but not that way. But it happened, and it was really a big success. Even that we and filmmakers and producers were very disappointed that we couldn't meet in person to talk, to share ideas. But we extended our reach out, and we had much more viewers, online viewers, because the program of the festival was available in the whole Poland, not only in Krakow and in the region like it used to be before. And it was a very specific edition, of course, and we had a big discussion last year what to do this year. Of course, we were all hope that this year will be normal one, and that everything will change, and that January will be the magic time for everybody, and the physical festival will be possible. And it was. This year we came back to cinemas, even that in Poland it was very difficult time because the cinemas in Poland were open just 1 week before our festival starts. So the physical festival was in not so many cinemas, and the program was not so big like in this before pandemic. And of course we kept this online platform, an online version of the festival. What was specific with our event that when we decided to go online, we wanted not to be a streaming platform like Netflix, and we didn't want to have this VOD. We decided to have the screenings at a set time, like you have at a festival. So the viewers who decided to buy access, they had to wait for the specific hour, and for us, it was the kind of keeping this festival rules that you have to be at the cinema at the set time and start watching films. So it was something that we wanted to try to keep somehow this festival atmosphere. Of course, it's completely doesn't work online. So we are thinking about online, of course, for the next edition. But in general, the essence of the festival is the cinema screenings, and yeah. So that's from me.
We all believe in the magic of a theater room, dark. You know, magic happens there. Of course, you can watch films at your home, but, you know,
yeah,
it's different when the magic of a dark room and you are there committed to a film. At least that's what we think. You know, now we will open questions. Maybe you have a different, think about that. Anyway, Stephanie, tell us a little bit about your festival, yourself, and what do you think about online, on-site thing.
Yeah. Yes, hello, I'm Stephanie. First of all, thanks also for this invitation to the great festival and to this lovely city. I'm really smashed. And I'm a programmer for the International Women's Film Festival in Germany for more than 20 years. It's one of the oldest women's film festivals, founded in the early 80s. Only Créteil in Paris is an older festival. It celebrated its 50th anniversary, and we are going to have our 40th edition in 2023, in 2 years. And it came from the feminist movement of the 80s. And what is special, like your festival, we are basically screening films by women directors. We started with that. It was a question of visibility, making films visible, connecting filmmakers when we started. And things really changed through the decades. By now we have different competitions. We have a fiction feature film competition. We have a competition for female DOPs, which I think is very important, and we started that for more than 10 years ago, and that really developed. Since, I mean, in these days we were talking about, I don't know, less than 3% female DOPs, and I think we hit the 10% by now, and it's not only a question of numbers, but also making visible and connecting people. And we were not really lucky. We had to postpone the festival twice. That was really hard. I mean, in 2020 we postponed it to September, and we were at least able to do the half of the festival program in cinema, which was, I mean, it's not only talking about the audience, but also about the programming team and the whole team. We're also, similar to your festival, we're a pretty small team, and when you're working on a festival, an analog festival for all the time, and then you postpone it, it's really hard. I mean, we were always like, okay, what's going to happen next? I mean, we all experienced that. And this year, again, we had to postpone, and then we went online because the cinemas they didn't open till the festival started in June. And then they suddenly, I mean, everything happened so sudden without any announcement. Then on all of the sudden the cinema did open again, so we could at least have 5 screenings in cinema. But that was like, I mean, that was the week when the soccer championship was going on and Germany was still in, and it was 30 degrees, so people didn't really, I mean, for us it was a big challenge and a big experience, because, I mean, you don't do an online festival like that. I mean, that wasn't our core knowledge, so to say. So when we decided to go online, we had all of the sudden to build up our technical team. We decided to have at least every day an online event where we can kind of online meet our audience, because it's such a, I mean, it really sucks if you do, I mean, if you work on this and you really want to meet the filmmakers and you want to meet your audience and everything happens in front of your screen, you know, it's not what we are what we are working for. So we had at least 1 or 2 online events every day. We had this meeting platforms where we can chat. But still, I mean, in June, people didn't feel like watching online films very much, to be honest. I mean, it was okay. We gained a lot of knowledge. And I think what really changed is that we will have kind of a bit of an online program. I think we will keep that, because what is true, that people who don't come to Cologne or to Dortmund to join our festival at least join some of the program online. And this is a nice response we got afterwards, that people really told us, because we had kind of, I don't know about you, but we had this feeling, who is out there? I mean, who is this audience, this online audience, you know? Did they like it? But then even after months, people told me, "Oh, that was nice. I watched 3 films that I never had watched. I never had the possibility to come to your festival or take the time to come to the festival." So that was good, and I think we will keep that, to have at least some program online. But still, I mean, what we do is, I mean, this is about networking, meeting people, talking to people, and I mean, call me old-fashioned, but I don't think that this will work online, and we need this in the cinema and in places like that, and this is what we are working for. And I hope, fingers crossed, end of March, the next edition will take place, and I hope that'll be like before. Yeah.
Fingers crossed. So Gaia, you were very lucky, because in the middle of the pandemic, the only A-class festival that was there all the time was Venice, because Venice takes place in September.
Yes.
So in 2020, the only A-class festival, Berlin did it in 2020.
Before the pandemic burst.
Yes, it was right after Berlin. As a matter of fact, a lot of people got sick after Berlin, because everybody was like,
they were
very
like
happy.
Yes.
And
super spreader.
Yes.
so you
Hello,
are the veteran film festival, you managed to be there in 2020 and in 2021. But anyway, tell us your thoughts about online festivals and,
Thank you
real life festivals.
Well, thank you for this lovely invitation. Yes, listening to Stephanie and Barbara, yes, we were very lucky, and very lucky. I mean, when we were in Berlin, first of all, I tell you what Giornate degli Autori is, the section of the Venice Film Festival I run. It's so the Venice Film Festival was born in 1932, but Venice Days was born 18 years ago. So it's the youngest section of the Venice Film Festival, and we program around 15, 20 films, more independent films from all over the world, and world premieres. And so during Berlin, we were, I remember you were there in 2019. We were there, and everybody was talking about this Chinese virus. And I remember that I had a meeting with a Chinese producer, and all my friends from Italy were saying, "Are you going to meet this Chinese producer? Are you crazy? There's the virus in China." And I said, "Yes, I mean, I'm going." And after that, I mean, just to say how we were not aware, of what was going on. We thought that it was very far, and so after Berlin, when we all experienced the lockdown and all the festivals shut down, it was really, it was really shocking. And I've been working for Venice for many, many years, since the creation of Giornate degli Autori, but just during the pandemic, they nominated me as the new artistic director. So we were completely alone in our houses, and I got this wonderful news in a way. I mean, yes, only wonderful, but at the same time very challenging, because I had no idea of what was going on. And so I had to create a group of programmers, not knowing if we were able to do the festival or not. So it's been a very tough and challenging first year for me, but then, I mean, I remember that even in July, Cannes shut down. So when Cannes did not happen, we thought, okay, I mean, if the Cannes doesn't happen, it's impossible that we will manage to do the festival. And then suddenly, I mean, around mid-August, the cases in Italy were very, very low. And so the Ministry of Culture decided to go for the festival. And I must confess that it was a very strange, but in a way beautiful experience, because we were like in this miraculous state of mind, you know. We were there experiencing the festival like a first time, and there were no parties, which, I mean, for a festival it's an ingredient of the whole thing. So no parties, no celebrities, and many women, because when the things we were talking about, that when things get difficult, women arrive.
Women are there, no.
And so all the famous male filmmakers decided to not send their films, and so it was the year with, I mean, the really the highest number of submissions from women filmmakers, from female filmmakers. So it's the year of Nomadland, who won the Venice Film Festival, and so yes, I mean, it was we didn't have a virtual, an online film festival. We were lucky enough to have these 2 past years on-site film festivals, but so I didn't experience the tragedy of working and not having your own festival on-site. So I cannot talk like they can, but in my opinion, I really thought a lot about that, because the question, what are the film festival for? And it's very important, because sometimes maybe, you know, your own ego talks and say, I mean, it's my job, of course it's important and we have to do that. But taking aside, you know, our own job, I do think that they're still important and necessary, and because it's like this sense of community, and that there's around a film festival and the film community. It's crucial, and it's crucial for the filmmakers, for producers, for distributors, for programmers, and you cannot have the same sense of community and of togetherness online. And it's really essential for the film community. I mean, markets and film festivals are 2 different things, but they both share the importance of being together. And Elena, she's a producer, so she knows much better than me, but most of the business, the deals are on site, are in person, are during a cocktail, are talking about soccer for Italians, or I don't know whether for British, but talking about something else. And then you find that you are going on, you know, and this is something. This morning, these wonderful people took us to the Reina Sofia, and I mean, it's not, of course, we have seen Guernica so many times on a book, but the on-site experience is a different thing, and because you are there, and so, I mean, of course, with films it's different because it's a different medium, but yes, I think that we still need to be together, especially for women, because women filmmakers are and women community in the film industry is a new thing, unfortunately, but it's a new thing. So it's even more important for us, for we women, to be together and to make this whole thing stronger. And we can only do it if we are together and not anyone, not on our, looking at our laptop in our private home.
Yeah, I love you.
Me too. Te quiero.
Te quiero, te amo for what you say and for who you are. I amo everybody, but I'm very happy with the last word you said. And of course, this is a little bit out of the main topic of the panel, but I think it's important since we have three really powerful women that are choosing films, and I think it's very important that we think or at least you tell us what is your main criteria when you choose a film? And I go from this question, I go to gender question, do you have in mind gender issues, you try to have in your festival, of course you're a women film festival, but you are not, and you're not, Gaia. So do you try to have a balanced programming between men and women? Is that something that even if there is not a rule, you try to do it for yourself? Something that is very important, when you deal with films that reproduce misogynies, sexist patterns, how do you face those films? Because of course we don't want to be censors of anything. It's not about censorship, but for me, I can say my personal experience. I don't only program this festival, I program other things, and to me it bothers me. I don't have a problem with violence, I don't have problems with rape when it's justified on the plot, but I'm so fed up of you don't know what to do, so let's rape a woman. Let's beat up a woman. We don't know what to do with the plot. Hey. So, how do you face these, gender questions, but always in terms of the quality of films, So, Barbara, you program this amazing festival with so many content from so many parts of the world, so different.
Yes, we are not the Women Films Festival, of course, but we screen in general documentary films from all over the world, and our program is quite big, and apart from a competitive section, we have also some thematic sections, and every year one of them is dedicated to women topics or women filmmakers, and when we run the selection for the competitive sections, which are the most important, of course, somehow in some way it's we are trying to pay attention to the we are looking for good films, and of course it is during last years a lot of change in the industry also in Poland, and we are trying to look for films directed by women, and of course there is a lot of such interesting films that we include in the program, but it depends on the year. Sometimes there are more films by women, and sometimes there is not so many. But in general, we are trying to pay attention on this. And what I want to say that in terms of selection of the different films, and also on this equality level, we are working with the balanced selection team. There are half women and half of men in the selection, which is in our mind very important because of different perspective of perception of films, of the different topics, and this is very important for the final program of the festival. So in general, we are very looking for films directed by women, and especially what I already said in our conversation, in Poland there is quite big change during last years. There is more and more young women filmmakers, especially in animated films, which is dominated by young, very talented filmmakers, and there was some edition of festival during last 2 years that we had animated films only from young filmmakers, the women filmmakers. So it's because they were good. not because there were films made by women, but because there was really good films. So this is what how we do this in Krakow. So we are trying to keep this balance and to invite filmmakers, women filmmakers, to submit their films, to present their films, and but everything in the final decision, it depends if the film is really good and if it touches us, But as I said in the beginning, we have a separate section for the women filmmakers and the women topic.
Okay, dziękuję bardzo.
Proszę.
So because also, okay, obviously, but sometimes for me, sometimes it's very important to have like a balanced selection, but sometimes, I see myself asking to myself this question: am I going to be a censor? I'm going to be like doing censorship because a film is reproducing misogynist patterns, are raping women out of the blue, is not in the plot. I mean, you can rape a woman or rape a goat, so sometimes the limits, and I don't want to be like, as I said, like a censorship, but I think also that we need to do something to create awareness about how women have been mistreated in history of art, in history of literature, etc., etc. Stephanie, tell us your
if you
thoughts.
call that censorship, I would say you have to be a I really agree, because when you ask how we, I would say every festival says, okay, we want the good films, but how and why is probably different from festival to festival. We screen films by women filmmakers, and sometimes people misunderstand that this must naturally be women topic driven films, whatever that means, which is not. We have some years, like in competition, I'm the programmer of the fiction feature film competition. Some years we have out of 8 films, 4 films with male protagonists, and people are like, how come, that was there. What we are interested is, films that develop the cinematic language in an interesting way. We are interested in films, in filmmakers with a certain attitude, which I would say it's nice to have an interesting feministic attitude, And of course there are films by women filmmakers who reproduce this kind of stereotypes you mentioned, Elena. Sometimes when we in the selection team, we call them like women who do us bad, like who not women films who do us harm, because we really, I don't want to see that. It's about representation, and we have seen that for so many years, and I think it's part of the whole patriarchal system. So I don't want to, but we also, when it comes to selection, it's also a broader question of diversity and of representation. We try to represent also films from countries that won't be screened in cinema and released in German cinema very easily. So we try to have a wide range of films in competition, for example. Some years, for certain reasons that we all know, the French are always very strong. So there are some years I could have had 4 French films in competition because they're very strong. But we don't, So, or last year, for example, Argentina was pretty strong. The women directors in general from Latin America for the last years, to my observation, were really strong. So we try to balance that as well. We had Angeles yesterday on the panel, to have this kind of diversity, to have voices there that won't be heard very often, which is also interesting. I mean, it's interesting for the audience, it's interesting for the cinematic language, because we see new perspectives. And this doesn't mean a female perspective, but it's just there are just other stories to be told, you know. And this is that we have a really good balance in that. And also, I mean, I don't know about your team, but we also discuss it in the team to have. I mean, we have white women in the team. Of course, I mean, certainly we have to discuss that, to have more people with different backgrounds in the selection committee. And and what is also important for us to discover, because we also have thematic sections at the festival, which allows us to discover historic films. And that is also maybe a topic to talk about. I mean, the history of women in film, you know, who is going to be remembered. So we also try to give focus on that, to remember or to rediscover women filmmakers from the early filmmaking on, you know.
Yeah, I think that it's very important, because when we talk about the role of the festivals, it's also the role of discovering those who are not discovered before.
Thank you. I was waiting for this.
Yeah. So this is what the festivals do. I'm from the documentary film festival, which is completely different than feature film festival, and there is the different kind of cinema. There is not so easy for audience very often. But I think what Stephanie said, that it's the role of the festival to show the artists who are not well known, but very interesting in their work. So. I think so.
No.
There's nothing I really can add. I mean, because yes, I mean, it's as Stephanie says, that we programmers, of course, answer this question saying we want to select good films, either they are directed by women or men. So of course the first goal is to have a good selection, also because it's essential for the women community to show good films by women, directed by women, because if not, we put ourselves in a weak position. So sometimes you feel that you need to have a film because it's directed by a woman, but there's another one directed by the man that it's higher, and you have to admit it and accept it and fight in order to build a world where the year after there will be more films, more good films directed by women. So it's not a matter of having a film because it's by a female filmmaker, but it's a matter of having a film because it's a good film. And what's changed is our attitude, for sure. I mean, when I started to work for Venice, nobody in the team, nobody, the artistic director, the selection program. I started not as a programmer, but leading the programming team, so I was not a member of the programming team. And nobody thought about having a film directed by a woman. Nobody, before the Me Too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for a long time.
Which is not so long
for
ago.
For a long time. And before coming here, I said, let me see how many films directed by women we had. So I just surfed on the website, and the first 2 years, there was not a single film directed by a woman. And we didn't notice that. And I was not a selection member, but I was there. And so I'm part of I share the same guilt of of the group, you know, because we were not aware. And so, I mean, it's been really a revolution, and we experienced a real revolution. Now it's not possible to program a competition with no female filmmakers in, because thanks God you will have the entire world, in terms of the entire press, the entire community against you, which is fair. It's like it should be. So yes, our attitude is completely changed. For example, we received the submissions, and before we just got the submissions and started to watch the films. Now we got the submissions, and on our database they are divided, all the films. We know as it arrives, we already know if it's directed by a woman or by a man, because it's easier to have an idea, a whole idea. And for example, I was telling Stephanie, we got 1,000 submissions this year, and only 200 films were directed by women. So I mean, there's also this fact, you know, that you have to recognize what's going on. So you have to do your best to make the most from what you have, you know. But we managed to have 16 films in the official selection, and we had 7 films directed by women, which is nice. I mean, it's a lot. And so yes, I mean, we are. I am, of course, very careful and very. I do want to have female filmmakers around. Our president of jury this year was the lesbian feminist Bulgarian duo Mina Mileva and Vesela Katsakova, and the film that won the Venice Days is the Romanian film Immaculat by Monica Stan. So I mean, I was very happy. It was a very female year, but the quality comes first, because if not, it's a blind path. And yes.
It's really interesting that you mentioned that there wasn't that kind of awareness only a few years ago, because I mean, festivals like ours, or like Drac Magique in Barcelona, I mean, or like Créteil, they're doing that work for 40 years, you know, or even more. And of course, the women filmmakers, they were pretty aware of it. You know, it's interesting. And I mean, Thierry Frémont, I mean, he got along with this argument to say, okay, I would program them, but there are not enough. That what was he saying in advance, or they are not good enough, you know, though other festivals obviously show that there is a wide range. For example, Créteil is almost at the same time as our festival, or in March, and we are in April or so, and we have a completely different selection, which is very interesting. So there's a lot out there, and I remember very well, I think it's 4 or 5 years ago, that Berlin had I think it was 4 films out of 18 in competition, or 5, and that's what they call the year of the woman, you know. That was kind of annoying, you know, but and that really changed.
Yeah,
and I can
really
imagine
that. But imagine that, for example, you mentioned Frémont, who is the artistic director of the Cannes Film Festival. Imagine that for an A festival, like an A competition, so not talking about Directors Fortnight or Venice Days, but for A competition, they go for, even when they are independent, they go for big films in terms of sales agents or you know, main producers. And maybe the directors you are talking about were not part of this world, you know. And so, I mean, what's changing right now is that finally, because of course, I mean, there are the quotas, and so, I mean, they gain money if they invest on women. It's not only because everybody now it's kind.
Exactly.
Not because we live in a positive world, but because there are also an interest in investing on women. But right now, the major sales companies, the producers, are finally investing on women. But before, it was not like that. So,
and women build their own companies. That what happened for the last decade. In Hollywood as well as in Europe, which is. And I would also talk about the gatekeeping thing, because I did some. I just went to the. You mentioned the A festivals, international. There are 15 festivals, international festivals with competitions, and they're. I mean, we have you here now. I mean, yours is not an A, but the bigger festivals. But there are not so many female directors. I mean, there are like 13, or if you take Berlin, okay, you have the artistic director and you have this double, but I mean, you have 13 of these festivals are led by male directors and head programmers, and this certainly forms. I don't say they're all anti-feminist or anti-women, but this forms a kind of perception in selection, I would say.
Yes, I think that we for such a long time, you know, you just remake the world that you know. You know. And it's like that in all. I mean, all the aspects of life. You know, not only in cinema, in any kind, in any aspect of life, even in our private life. You know, sometimes you just keep on remaking what you have been taught and what you know
and what you know and who you know
and you just go on. I mean, and when I was nominated artistic director, it's been very, I mean, the Italian press was very excited because I am the first woman in the Venice Film Festival, so after like 70 years, and you know what, I didn't realize that we were so. That's and not say I'm not proud of it, of course. I mean, especially talking to you, that you are, I mean, luckily fighting so much for so many years. But just saying that we have our responsibility, you know, we women. I mean, it's because we built this world together with the men. We accepted the reality as it was, and not complaining too much, complaining a little bit, but taking for granted that it's like that and we cannot change it. And so yes, we were part of the, maybe not you, but I mean, we were part of the problem.
Yeah, but still, I mean, I was wondering, it's just an example. I mean, would say, I mean, when we talk about representation, we hadn't had films from the African continent for many years in competition, and I was like, okay, there aren't any, you know. It's just to make this comparison a little bit, and I was and then people just address me and say, okay, then do your work, you know. Of course, they have different producing situations, and maybe you cannot compare them, but it's important to give them a platform, and this is what I really work on, because I have to do this work, because otherwise we always have this European, Eurocentric, a little bit of US, America in competition, and then nothing changed.
That links to the question that I wanted to ask you. You know, as many feminist currents advocate, you know, the feminist struggle has to be linked with the struggle for diversity, with the class struggle. You know, it's all linked. You cannot have, you know, fighting just for women. It's linked to fighting for, you know, representation wherever you are from, fighting for different minorities, etc., etc. So it's good that you mentioned that, because it's something that I'm totally in synchrony with that thought, you know. Yesterday with the panel of the female directors, we were laughing because we were like, yeah, we are half of the population and we are a minority, ha ha ha. No, which is very weird, but it's true. So somehow, you know, how do you feel about like the need of a festival to be a platform also for showcasing things that we usually don't see from different cultures, from different, you know, I don't like to say minorities, but different cultures, different points of view, different life attitude, different ways of being. Do you feel like responsible? Because I do feel responsible for that.
Yeah, definitely, yes. Definitely, I agree, because I think that the festival has this power that they can change something. Of course, the filmmakers who make the film, who shoot the film, do this as well. But the festivals very often, especially in my field, in the documentary films, sometimes are the only places where the film can be screened, and it's not so easy for documentary to be released in the cinemas and to reach, you know, the big audience. So the festival definitely have this role of, you know, opening eyes to different minorities, to different, you know, to gender issues, and to all what's important and what must be, you know, yeah, important for everyone. So that's, of course, there are some festivals which are profiled, like the Human Rights Festival, which are different. The Women's Festival, which of course focus on a specific year. But in general, I think that the festival have a big role in this, you know, informing somehow about what's going on in different fields of life, and especially in with this. I don't know, people of color, of you know, the LGBT issues, or feminism, even religious, because it's, you know, it's also some topic. It might be a topic, you know. So I think that's definitely, I agree with this. And definitely, I think also, as a programmer, that we usually, of course, look for films and different festivals, and we are in touch with sales agents and distributors. But also, we can try to look for films, you know, going deeply into the different countries, maybe, because not every filmmakers, women filmmakers, are, you know, so friendly with the industry that they go to the distributor or sales agent, and sometimes the national institutes are the source of information also about such films. So it's a deeper research in terms of finding the films from you know, different topics, but also, yeah, in this case, the female filmmakers as well.
Good.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. I mean, talking about, I already said, so I really feel responsible for that, and I have to develop. I mean, I don't, and I mean, you really have to be aware of it and trying to get out of this, what they call the comfort zone. Yeah, what absolutely. You said, reproducing what was what worked for all the years. Yes. But again, I mean, maybe just another issue is also that even if we screen these films, it doesn't mean, I mean, we are platforms for certain kind of films, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be seen afterwards. And that is also interesting. Who are those people in charge who release the films? I think this is the next step, like world sales, like distributors. This is also an interesting issue where, when it comes to, in this case now, feminist issues or questions of diversity, I think there's a lot of development to be done.
Yeah, listen, it's something that, you know, taking your thought like, okay, San Sebastian Film Festival is the biggest festival in terms of audience, and it's an A-class festival in Spain. It's amazing because you want to see a film during the festival. It doesn't matter if it is a film, art house film where you can see the grass growing. It doesn't matter. All the sessions are fully booked,
But a week later.
But a week later, that is normal life. You release some of the films that they were impossible to get tickets, and nobody goes to watch them.
Yeah.
Why? What can we do? I mean, this is not part of the topic, but we don't care. We do our own topics every day. So what can we do? Because to me, it's something, as a producer, as a film lover, what can we do to, it's like, imagine that you cook like this beautiful, wonderful meal, and you're trying to nourish people, and it's like, don't eat, these stupid, horrendous fries. Eat this that is like really nice vegetables, really nice fish. What can we do to make, people, audience aware that there is life after Netflix? I know it's a very difficult question. Nobody has the answer, but
I think taking into consideration the last 2 years when a lot of festivals went online, I think that from my experience with the online festivals last year and the hybrid festival this year, and for the documentary films, I think that going online was somehow extending, this window for the documentary films which we screened in cinema during the festival, and because we had a really good feedback from the Polish audience from different cities and from other regions. It was this 2 or 3 weeks or even a month longer for the films screen online. It was some kind of, giving them life. And reaching the audience. It's not it doesn't work for the feature films completely, because I think that's a different situation. But for documentary films, which are not really interested from distributors, for cinema distributors, it is something that could work. I think so.
But do you think each festival creates its own?
No.
Platform?
I'm telling about our festival and about our experience. I know that it doesn't work for every festival, and it all depends. But I know that some festivals also cooperate with some platforms already, and maybe it's some kind of solution, but not perfect. Definitely not perfect. And how to keep people into the cinema for the films, I don't know.
Did you, just a technical question, when you went online, it was just for Poland, right?
Yes, it's basically blocked. Yes,
that was the same with us.
It makes sense. It makes sense because it's of course the deals with the producers, with the right holders, and it might work that way only, I think.
This Tank platform, a platform for documentary. It's a French platform called Tank that is now spreading all over Europe.
I heard, but I don't know this platform, but I heard about it,
because it's good. It's very good. I mean, they're just growing, so they've just started.
Yeah, but they are for French territory only, I think, or they're international, I don't know.
I think it's for international territories. I'm not super sure, but I think so. Yes, they're now launching it in Italy and in other countries. Yes.
Yeah. Well, when I was trying to say what can we do to make our films, the films that we program, the films that are made available to the audience, I don't mean necessarily in theaters. I also, like you arrive from work, you're super tired, you put the TV or you put Netflix and you...
But there's a prejudice. I think there's a prejudice.
Yes.
There's a prejudice for films that are screened at festivals.
Too difficult, heavy
They
to
are
watch.
difficult. They are, for no. The thing that you've just said. I mean, you come back from a very maybe a hectic day. You arrive at home. You just lay down on the sofas and you just want something on Netflix. But on Netflix, there are billions of festival films, and there are. But maybe so. It's not. It's just a matter of educating, and also surfing on Netflix can be a first tip. Because Netflix is a world. It's not a bad world like internet, like everything that you can take it in a good way or in a bad way. And on Netflix there are very good films, very strong documentaries, and also there are, shit things, of course, but there are very good things. And so, first of all, I think that Netflix, Amazon Prime, Apple TV, they have treasures within,
hidden treasures.
but you just need to be able. It's like when someone who's not, into literature enters in a huge library and they don't know where to go and they just go out because you don't know what to buy, because you see all these names, Cervantes and Pasolini and Kafka, and you have no a clue of what it is, and so you just go out. And I think it's the same thing. I mean, we as programmers, people who work in the film and cultural field, we need to maybe being more communicative and try to guide people, to guide young audience, for example. I'm doing all my experiments on my son, as I told you. So I'm trying to see how you react to festival. If you don't say this is a festival film, for example, and you just say, do you want to see a film about, and you see what's about, and then you show it. Most of the time, they like it.
Yeah.
They like it. But the problem is that festivals are viewed and felt from the audience like, an old museum, like a mute cinema, like an old stuff. And that's the thing that we really need to fight and to reconnect them to the audience. Yes.
Especially for festivals, I mean, like our size here, yours and mine, people feel you have to overcome this kind of prejudice that you were talking about, that people think that this is not for them, it's for some kind of business people, stars or whatever. So we have to explain every year that, I mean, really, literally everyone is welcome who's interested in films. And I would say once you get them, then you have a good chance to keep them once they've been there and they experienced a good screening, plus most of the time a Q&A or learn about what camera work, for example, means, what it really means. If you talk, it's not only interesting to talk to the director. Sometimes we have of course, the DOP or the editor, and this is so interesting for people to learn about their contribution to the film. And what we do for many years now is film education. You mentioned we have like 10 screenings, every 10 or 12 screenings every festival, where we invite children from kindergarten to secondary school. I mean, you really try to get them. And I would say, just know your audience. I mean, don't try to reach everyone, you know, don't try. That was a discussion we had for some years. Okay, we are for everyone, because often people, that's my most hated question, because I'm also doing the press, the media stuff at our festival, and my most hated question of journalists is, are men welcome as well? You know, yes, they are, you know, why shouldn't they, you know? Sure. But you have to explain, and that's, I mean, and you use the tools that are around. I mean, social media is developing. This is what we all have to do. But once you get the people, maybe sometimes we really have people, like older people, that come back every year and they really do like it. That's our work. Yeah.
Yesterday in the panel with female directors, we were saying it would be great the day that we don't have to do a film festival of films made by women.
Yeah.
Or as Angeles, the filmmaker from Mexico, was saying, it will be fantastic the day I don't have to say I am an indigenous person and I am making a film. And this is an exception, you know. But in between, we have to, you know, struggle to try to make films that are not that obvious available to the general audiences. Because it's true, you know, we all say, no pain, no gain. In this case, it's not pain. It's like no effort, no discovery, you know? It's great when you, for the first time, try a food that you've never tried before, you know? A genre that you've never seen. When you visit a country, a continent, you know, there is always a joy in discovering things and getting out of our comfort zone. So this leads us to questions from our wonderful crowded audience, and I would like the translator to ask a question so she can rest. ¿Preguntas? ¿Tenéis alguno? Muy bien, venga, go ahead.
Hi, I am a student of audiovisual translation, and I wanted to ask you guys about what do you do for localization at your festivals? What options do you choose? If you do only subtitling, if you do dubbing, and why you choose to do that, and a little bit how do you contract that, and if you go through companies or if you go through self-employed people, how does it work a little bit? Thank you.
I go? No, we don't dub films, although in Italy there's a very, like here, I think, I don't know, but in Italy there's a long tradition of dubbing, unfortunately.
Here also, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, that's Germany also the reason why Italians don't speak English. Because we are not used to see films in original language, but luckily film festivals are always screen films in original language, and Venice of course screens films in original language, so we subtitle them. So for example, a French film, we subtitle it in English. I mean, a foreign film, not English or Italian, we subtitle it in English and in Italian. An English language film, we subtitle it only in Italian. So we subtitle on prints, and the first language on Italian on prints, and English in electronic subtitles when it's not English, the first language. And then we have English, I mean, is the main language. So when we have a Q&A, the Q&A is in Italian or in Spanish or in French, and it's translated into Italian and English. Yes.
You do the translation into Italian? You make it
Yes.
Yeah, that's the same.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, because you know, Venice Film Festival, it's for cinephile, of course, but it's also for the people in Venice. And not everybody speaks English, understands English, so it's really important to have the Italian done.
Yeah. We still decide it's more or less the same, and we have this discussion again and again because it's expensive. It really takes, I mean, making this translations for us into German is expensive for a feature-length film, but we still decided that we need that. I think maybe it's a question of generation change, because
maybe it will be in
maybe
a future.
in 10 years we would say, okay, if a film comes with English subtitles, we can do this. Sometimes we don't do that for the shorts because we have a lot of shorts. We have 30 short films more or less. So we decide sometimes, okay, this is. Most of the time, it's a younger audience, and we trust. So, but yes, we have this, and it got easier with the technique. I remember 10 years ago, it was really difficult doing this subtitling by yourself.
Now it goes smoothly.
When we started, we had this ear thing, and there was this translator sitting, but we don't do that anymore.
I am adding something about the self-employers. So we work with a subtitling company, and it's a very good Italian subtitling company. And 3-4 years ago, they created this radio station. So they make interviews and master classes in all the languages of the European countries. And it's called Fred Radio. And because you are studying this, I mean, the subtitling company is called Subti, and the radio station is called Fred Radio, and it's composed by all people studying and working in the translation field.
Yeah, and Krakow, since we are at the international festival, we have the rule that each film must be screened in Polish and in English. So that's for, of course, the Polish audience is not so friendly with English, unfortunately, yet. Of course, young people, there's much better, but the older one are not so well. I don't know the English probably so well. And we we translate in foreign films into Polish. As for Polish films, usually we receive the English translation from Polish producers, and we prepare the subtitles. It is similar like it's your festivals, probably the electronic. Sometimes we put it on the files, if it's when it is possible. And we work with the. We used to work with individual translations sometimes ago, but since for a few years we've been using the company, the translation company and subtitling company, so it is much easier, and they're really very good. And besides, we also have audio description. It's audio description for blind people, and sometimes we also prepare the subtitles for deaf people, which are a bit different. So this is how it works in Krakow.
It's interesting that you add that, because we just started that, and when you were asking about responsibility, that is also a big issue for our festival. We just we just started it, and then again, I mean, developing your audience, that is also work that has to be done to address people and say, okay, we are aware of that, and we're trying to provide this tools for you that you can join the festival as well. So we haven't had this awareness a couple of years ago, I have to admit.
Yeah, we cooperate with the foundation that supports, and usually, of course, there are not so many films with this version for these people, but every year there are more and more films which we decide to prepare, and there is I don't know, in Poland now there is a quite big interest from the private foundation just to support that kind of making extending access for the people with any disabilities. So it works for our festival also.
Yeah, because somehow at the end of the day, there is always a danger in festivals, and is that we become too endogamic. We do a festival for people that are presenting films, for critics, for film industry. So, sometimes there is a risk on becoming too endogamic, looking at our own belly button.
Absolutely.
And it's so important to have audience, like normal people that goes to see the films, that reacts, that ask questions, because otherwise it becomes like, your own community discussing over and over, like a dog, like biting its own tail. So that's why we also have, because we are a festival with limited sources, so we also said, hey, do we have to, subtitle all the films into Spanish? But we say, yes, we have a responsibility with the audience. This is not a festival for festival people. This is a festival for normal people. We want them to be, to showcase films, and we want them to be part of the festival. So at the end of the day, it's necessary to put the films in the original language of the territory.
Yeah, and I think that what Gaia said at the beginning, that the festivals are for the industry very important, for meetings, for networking. But I think that also the audience is the most important thing. Only for filmmakers who would like to meet and to have any, comments from the audience, from the people for whom, in fact, they are doing, making film. So that's the audience is really.
Especially because art house cinema was kind of for the last 10 years really has a hard time, and we realize that we experienced that festival took over the place of art house cinema, at least in Germany. I don't know about you.
Everywhere in the world.
Which means, that's a little bit inside, I don't know, but which means that it got more and more expensive to get the films because the distributors started making money with the festivals, which hasn't been the case, let's say 20 years ago to that extent. But it's good because we have this position to give the platform.
Ok, más preguntas. ¿Algún valiente? ¿Alguna valiente?
Somebody else dares to ask a question? Any brave person who dares to ask another question?
Nadie tiene preguntas, no me lo puedo creer, aunque sean preguntas así.
I can't believe nobody has a question, even if it's something just like, what do you have for breakfast?
So I think this is it. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you to the people that are screening us online. Thank you to our favorite translator. And please go to the cinema.
Yes.
The magic of the theaters, there is nothing like that.
Lovely.
Thank
you so much.
Thank you.
Y gracias a Telefónica por tenernos aquí un año más.
Thanks to Telefónica for having us here another year. Thank you.